for the problem you're solving, because it is hard work to start a company, and it's even harder to grow it.
Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have another special guest on. It is Ramy Serageldin, and this guest is special because he's a Queen City fintech mentor. He's a graduate of Techstar in 2018, and he is also the founder and the CEO of Honeyfi. So welcome to the show, Ramy.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Ramy, I mean, people have heard, like I said, your amazing background of the different things that you're involved in, but what was Ramy's life before becoming an entrepreneur?
Boring. Yeah, I mean, so I spent most of my career from a work perspective working for financial institutions. So I worked for Bank of America, and then I was at Ernst & Young, helped found their digital financial services practice. So spent most of my time in banking and tech. And then I was fortunate enough, I moved up to New York as part of that process and found a startup called Movin'. It was one of the first neobanks. So we built a bank from the ground up, and I fell in love with entrepreneurship. It was the first time I'd worked for a small company, because I'd worked for huge Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies. I'd worked for the state of North Carolina, kind of government, very slow, very inefficient. And this was the first time I'd worked for a small startup, and I loved it, and kind of never looked back.
Awesome. Well, so what was that journey like? I mean, did you just decide like, hey, you know what, we're going to build a bank? Like, how did you get into that mindset of wanting to do that?
So, I met at Movin', I was the COO, but I wasn't a founder. So I was one of the first employees they hired. And I met them through actually my now wife. And it was interesting because they said, look, we've got this idea. We think banking's going to get, this was back for context back in 2011, banking's going to get completely reimagined. And we think some pretty good ideas as to how to do this. And I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds pretty good. But, if you get some funding, let me know. Because, I've worked for big banks. I was like, no one's going to change this. And then I started talking. I was like, you know what, there's a real opportunity here. And just kind of said, you know what, why not, right? Like, let's take the risk and see if it works out. And it did. Yeah.
Now, did you guys get any like pushback from like your friends that were still working at an established bank?
In the beginning, yes, but honestly, there was a little bit of jealousy in the sense of, if you've ever worked for a big corporation, it can be really good if you're in the right role, but quite often it's not. Quite often you spend most of your time dealing with process. You're building PowerPoint presentations and you're convincing X manager times 3 to get funding for something, and then who knows, like, they reorg the organization and all your projects disappear. So you spend so much of your time and energy on, candidly, just waste, that when you go to a startup, even if it's one as crazy as, hey, we're going to rebuild banking, there's a bit of like, wow, that's pretty awesome. So you're saying you launched this in 6 months? Like, we would have still been, working on our PowerPoint presentations. So there was definitely a little bit of skepticism in the beginning, but I think there was also a bit of, man, that's awesome. I wish we could do something like that on that.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that because I went from working at General Electric in Cincinnati, like working in their aviation division, massive, division within an already massive company. And I do remember that, like, some of the advice that I was getting from some mentors is like, all right, the position and that you pick will have a lot of impact on how much you actually enjoy your job. And I remember like being and seeing, the complaints that some people had, because I was fortunate to have some good mentors to pick some good roles to where, I still felt like I was making an impact. And then it just, like I said, multiplied like times 100 when I moved to Charlotte and took a job at Passport, to where it's just like, all right, all of those layers of people that were in between you and the final decision are now removed. You have like one person
That's true. It's true. No, it's the one thing I will say that I did miss and do miss at a startup is the resources.
Mhm.
You know, that's the one thing, you know, you're always fighting for money, but there's always money. And there's always people, if the right decision makers say go do it. But when you start, it's like not always the case. So for those listening, it's not always roses on the other side. So,
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about, you started the bank and you worked as a COO there. Now, Honeyfi in Charlotte, like what was that journey like?
yeah. So Honeyfi, it was obviously very different in that it was the first one where I was a founder, right? And to be fair, I have two other co-founders as well. So it's very different when it's your baby, so to speak, right? It's you feel even more motivated than you do perhaps even at a small startup where you believe in the mission because you want to make sure it's successful. Starting it was easy in the sense of we really believed in the idea, right? And really believed that this was a problem that needed to be solved. Um, as always, the execution is the hard part. We made new mistakes, I'd say. We tried not to make the same mistakes we made previous places. But it was interesting. I think the biggest thing we learned was really what the problem was that we were solving. I think in the beginning, we were very much focused on sort of the nuts and bolts and the accounting aspect of couples finances. So, making sure we're showing you the right information and making sure the analytics are there. And what we realized is it was really more about solving the social dynamics between the couple, right? Why is it that they're doing it? It's both they want to communicate more effectively, they want to have less stress, and they're trying to save for particular goals. And so we've shifted the product as we've learned really what the problem was that we were trying to solve. And that's normal, right? That's I think that's a good thing, right? We were listening to our customers, but it was an interesting journey on that front.
Mhm. Now, did you find it a little challenging to kind of let go of your original idea of what, hey, this was the original vision we had, but hey, this is the feedback we're getting? Like, did you find it a little challenging to let go personally of what you wanted versus what the customers were saying?
In the beginning, yes. But I think as we started to see the results of those changes, improving engagement, improving adoption, improving everything from a metrics perspective, you say, okay, maybe we should listen to our customers a bit more. It doesn't mean that you can't come up with ideas that are new and unique because not you can talk to customers a lot, but sometimes when you're trying to create something new, you just have to try things. But the key is to see if what you're trying is working. And I think we've gotten a lot better about making those changes and being okay with them not working and then taking them down, very quickly. It's the old adage of great is the enemy of good, right? I think it takes a long time, especially when it's your baby, to be okay with that. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, I guess, what are the products and services? What is Honeyfi about?
Yeah, so Honeyfi is a platform to help couples manage their finances together. What that means is we're trying to save relationships. But what we do is we help couples as your relationship evolves deal with the financial challenges that come with it. So if you think earliest in your relationship, you've moved in together, you're probably not married, but you're trying to figure out rent, utilities, groceries, a lot of household expenses. Honeyfi can help you with that with our household budget. We'll track your bills. We use machine learning to identify those. And as your relationship evolves and you're saving for a vacation, if people ever go back on vacation, but or a down payment for a home, right? We have a savings capability, so you can save for both joint and individual goals with our partner bank. So we'll actually move that money for you and put it into an FDIC insured account. So big thing for us is actually helping you take the actions you need, not just giving you kind of the insights that a Mint or something like that would. The biggest thing about Honeyfi, though, is, and this is one of the things that's unique to us, is that we're 100% focused on couples and the way that today's couples manage their finances. So 2/3 of today's couples don't fully merge their finances even after marriage. They have this concept now of yours, ours, and mine. And Honeyfi lets you manage your household and your individual budget, bills, and expenses in one place. So you don't have to have multiple apps. You don't have to share everything if you're not ready to. If you want to, great. But that's not we don't force you into that, and that's a really big selling point for a lot of
Okay,
people.
awesome. So where can people find you online or on social media, or where can they get become a customer of Honeyfi?
Yeah, so we're available in Apple and iOS, or excuse me, Apple and Android app stores. If they want to learn more, they can obviously go to the website, but best way is to just download it. It's free to sign up. We give you a 30-day free trial, and then it's an annual subscription after that. And we have a subscription because we wanted to make sure that our incentives are aligned with our customers. We're not going to sell your information. We're not going to push credit cards on you like some of our competitors would. And we feel like any advice we give you is the best advice for you because we're not trying to make money off.
Gotcha. Now, do you guys also have a website? Are you on social media as well?
We have a website. It's honeyfi.com, HONEYFI. And then we are on the socials, but we're not as active as we should be. But because we're still a relatively small team, and we're focused more on the product, and we get most of our growth honestly through affiliate partners. So we're very big in the blogging, in the financial blogging community. We've done a lot of studies and surveys on couples and your happiness and associated with your budgeting style and if you communicate well. And that's gotten us a lot of coverage in places like Time and Huffington Post and even Martha Stewart Living, which I will admit I hadn't read before we got covered in there. But yeah, so we're more active that way than we will be, say, posting and stuff. But
okay, yeah. Definitely. Now, one question that I like to ask every guest that comes on to the show is, when you think about, your journey as an entrepreneur, what's one or two lessons that you've kind of learned or come across that you were like, wow, this is a lesson that I needed to know to become successful if I want to stay on this entrepreneurial journey?
How much time do we have? No. So I think, one, I think that we actually, as Honeyfi, learned probably longer than we should. It took us longer to learn than we should have, is to not be afraid to try to make a change. And by that, I mean, there were so many times when we'd say, well, let's just get this right and then we'll add this, or let's just get this right and then we'll start charging. And every time we do it, after we did the change, we're like, wow, that was painless. And that went a lot better than we thought it would. Man, we should have done this earlier. And so I think hesitation, can be something that holds you back. And I think we probably could have grown faster, or we could have accelerated our revenue faster, had we just been willing to take some risks when it came to the product a little bit more. The other, I would say, which is probably even more important, is know why you're starting the business. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs or founders I talk to who, when you really get down to it, their big thing is, well, I wanted to make money, or I got tired of my job, and those are, like, I'd say, the symptom, but it's not the reason why you started a company. You need to have a passion for the problem you're solving, because it is hard work to start a company, and it's even harder to grow it. And if your only motivation is some potential exit at the end, it will not carry you through the long nights, and it will not carry you through the downs. And so having a team of co-founders that really do believe in the mission and can work with you and believe, hey, we're fighting through this because we want to, in our case, we want to help people manage their finances better. We want to take the stress out of, having a family and being in a relationship is stressful enough as it is. And if we can help take that stress off the table, then that drives us forward, right? That's, so many people need help, and that makes us motivated. So I'd say having the right motivation is critical. Yeah, we want to do well financially. Don't get me wrong. We think we're going to blow it up, but that's not the reason we started the company. That's not why we keep doing what we're doing.
Gotcha. Well, definitely thank you for coming on the show, sharing your journey and sharing your wisdom and your insight. We really appreciate the wisdom that you shared.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and thanks for having the show. Right, it's great to hear other entrepreneurs and other leaders in the business area. So I appreciate you doing that.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, be sure to click the subscribe button and follow us on all social media platforms as the Business Talk Library.